Let's bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane. General, when Speaker Pelosi goes to Ukraine, one, it shows that the United States is fully engaged, but it also shows, I think, that she knows that she's going to have to figure out a way to make sure that she can get the president's request of $33 billion passed through the Congress, which isn't necessarily a done deal with all the other things that people want to put onto it. But there is support for Ukraine. What did you make of her visit?
Well, I think it's significant, certainly. I mean, this is the highest-ranking official, third person in the succession in terms of being president. The fact is that it is disappointing in the sense that it wasn't bipartisan. And where's the minority leader and also some Republicans, and demonstrate to President Zelensky that there is bipartisan support for the effort in Ukraine, which there truly is. So that was the only aspect of it that disappointed me. Certainly, I truly commend her for taking the risk, for doing it, and the public display. It's not without its danger, even though that looks fine in the open there. Rockets and missiles could fall at any time on Kyiv. Yes, and what has been disturbing in the past, the Democrats have been trying to tie a Ukraine package to some of the other domestic things they want to do, like a COVID bill. And I think and I hope that that does not take place, because that would delay this for weeks. They need to pass this week and get on with it so that the Pentagon can provide the assistance that's needed. Listen, the tone of the administration, Pelosi saying we're going to stick with you till victory is achieved, the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and also the Secretary of State all saying the same thing now, and also this $33 billion plus up, 20 billions of it going to arms assistance and then economic and humanitarian assistance split among the other 10 is truly significant. And I was surprised by the amount of it, to be sure, but it's also a demonstration of the administration's commitment, and we got to give them credit. I mean, we were certainly very critical of them for a couple of weeks in not doing enough, and not doing enough also in substance as well as timing. And now we seem to be on the same page, and that is commendable for them. And hopefully the Congress will get this done quickly.
Yeah, in that town of Mariupol, I was surprised to hear that 100,000 people may be still blockaded in that town. 100,000 still to this day, in a city of 400,000, of which 2,000 Ukrainian fighters are in that steel plant, and about 1,000 civilians that have been taking cover with them. So that situation continues. Meanwhile, sir, over the weekend, this got our attention. I'm sure it did you as well. In North Korea, Kim Jong-un said that he would consider preemptively using nuclear weapons. And the words via translation is to develop them at the fastest possible speed and threatening to use those if provoked. Is there more to this than just words, General?
Well, I think what's happened here, Bill, is he's probably taken a page out of the explosive rhetoric that the Russians have been using for the last few weeks when it applies to nuclear weapons. I mean, it's not particularly realistic. I mean, just think about this. The Chinese have certainly tolerated the Kim dynasties over generations, belligerent language, and also upgunning of their nuclear arsenal and developing ballistic missiles to include intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the United States. But the thought that North Korea would start a nuclear war on the peninsula or in dealing with Japan or the United States would get an obvious response, that would result in an absolute catastrophe. The Chinese would not tolerate something like that, nor would the Chinese tolerate North Korea conducting an invasion of South Korea. If they conducted an invasion of South Korea, the United States has a treaty with South Korea, that would result in North Korea being defeated, and the United States, as an ally to a unified Korea, would be right on China's border. China does not want that. As much as they like the aggravation that North Korea causes the United States, they want stability on that peninsula. Yep. And also, if you wave that nuclear flag around, right now, South Korea and Japan, Bill, are under the umbrella of the United States nuclear arsenal. And what China does not want is South Korea and Japan motivated to develop their own nuclear capability,
Understood.
obviously because of their proximity to China. So as much as China supports North Korea rather significantly, they also control North Korea just as much.
Yeah. You got a new president in South Korea on the 10th of May. Watch that date. You got a summit with Joe Biden on May 21. So we'll be watching that 11 days in between. General Jack Keane, thank you for your time this Monday.